What if I told you that there's a strategy so powerful, so psychologically devastating, that no contact looks weak in comparison? Because no contact, it still leaves room for hope. It still leaves you waiting, watching, wondering if they'll ever come back. But this strategy, this makes them regret ever leaving in the first place. Not because you disappeared, but because you became someone so powerful, so untouchable, that they have no choice but to question everything. This isn't about playing games. This isn't about waiting by your phone, like some lovesick fool. This is about control. About mastering yourself so completely that, by the time they realize what they lost, you won't even care anymore. This is the story of a man who was shattered by heartbreak, just like you. A man who thought no contact would be enough, until he realized something far more powerful. And by the end of this video, you'll have a weapon so deadly that they won't just miss you, they'll regret ever walking away. So if you're ready to stop suffering and start winning, hit that like button, subscribe and turn on notifications and comment below. I control my destiny. Now let's begin. No, won the fall. A man broken by love, he never saw it coming. One moment she was his world. The late night conversations, the inside jokes, the deep talks, that made him believe they had something real, something unbreakable, and then just like that, she was gone. No long explanation. Number apology, just a cold, detached goodbye that hit him like a blade to the chest. He stood there staring at his phone, rereading her last message, as if looking hard enough would make it all make sense. But it didn't, it never does. The days that followed were torture. Every room felt empty, every song reminded him of her. The bed felt too big, his phone felt too quiet. He could still hear her laugh in his head, still picture the way she used to look at him, like he was the only man in the world. But now she looked at him like a stranger. Worse, like he didn't exist at all. That was the part that burned the most. How easily she moved on, how quickly she erased him. As if he was just another phase, another name she'd forget in a few months. And yet he couldn't do the same. His mind became a battlefield, torn between rage and heartbreak, between wanting to hate her and wanting her back. He replayed every moment, every conversation, searching for the mistake, the moment where it all went wrong. Had he been too available, too loving, not enough? He tortured himself with questions that had no answers, losing sleep over a past he could never change. That's when the advice started pouring in. Go no contact. They told him disappear. Make her miss you, and so he did. He deleted her number, stopped checking her social media, forced himself not to reach out. Every time his fingers hovered over the keyboard, aching to send a message, he stopped himself. He told himself he was being strong, that this was the way to make her realize what she lost. But deep down he was still a prisoner. Because even though he wasn't talking to her, he was still thinking about her. Every single day he checked his phone, hoping for a message that never came. He scrolled through old photos, wondering if she had ever truly cared. He told himself he was moving on, but in reality he was just waiting. Waiting for her to come back. Waiting for her to wake up one day and realize she had made a mistake. But that day never came, and that's when it hit him. No contact wasn't enough, it was a bandage, not a cure. Because as long as his happiness depended on her return, as long as he needed her validation to feel whole again, he was still weak, and weakness is never attractive. She didn't respect him when he was broken, and she certainly wouldn't respect him for sitting around, hoping for a reunion. He was playing a game he had already lost. And that's when everything changed. Like this video, subscribe and comment below. I master my emotions. No, to the truth about no contact. Why it's not enough no contact. It's the advice everyone gives. The go-to strategy when you've been dumped, ghosted, or replaced. Just ignore her, they say. She come back when she realizes what she lost. And at first it sounds like the perfect plan. A silent war, a battle of patience. You cut her off, you disappear. And you wait, you imagine the day she regrets it. The moment she checks her phone, sees you're gone and suddenly panics. You tell yourself she starts wondering about you, missing you, stalking your social media. That she feel the loss just as deeply as you do. But here's the brutal truth. Most of the time she doesn't. At least not in the way you expect. No contact can work, but only if you truly move on. The problem, most men don't. They use no contact as a tactic, not as a transformation. They're not actually healing. They're just waiting for that text. That phone call, that moment when she finally realizes. But waiting is still weakness. Because as long as you're hoping for her return, she still owns you. Women can sense this. They can feel when a man is just pretending to be strong. When he's just playing the role of someone who's moved on rather than actually doing it. They know when a man is still emotionally tied to them, even in silence. And that's why no contact on its own often fails. Because if she senses that you're still watching, still waiting, still hoping, she knows she still has power over you. And what happens then? She doesn't miss you. She just moves on for real. Maybe she checks in after a few weeks, just to see if you're still there, just to get that small hit of validation. And when she sees that you are, that you still respond, that you still care, she walks away again, feeling even more confident in her decision. You were just a game she already won. That's when most men break. They get that little bit of attention, that short-lived dopamine rush, and they mistake it for a second chance. They think this is it, she's coming back. And in their excitement they make the fatal mistake. They show their cards, they respond too quickly. They engage too eagerly. They expose that they were never truly detached. And in that moment she realizes she was right to leave. So what's the answer if no contact isn't enough? What is? The answer is becoming a man she can never reach again. Not just through silence, not just through waiting, but through absolute, uncheckable indifference. Because the truth is, she will only feel the loss when she sees that you are no longer affected. Not pretending, not faking it, but actually gone. And when she reaches out, because eventually she will, you won't even care anymore. Like this video, subscribe and comment below. I need no one, I choose myself. No. 3. The power of indifference beyond no contact. At first he thought no contact was the answer. That if he just stayed silent long enough she'd start to miss him. That she'd reach out when she realized what she lost. But as time passed, he came to a brutal realization. No contact wasn't enough. Because deep down he was still waiting. Still hoping. Still letting her live rent free in his mind. And as long as he still cared, he was still weak. That's when he made a decision. No more waiting, no more hoping, no more pretending. It was time for something stronger than no contact, something she wouldn't see coming. Indifference, not just ignoring her, but completely removing her from the equation. She no longer mattered, her thoughts, her feelings, her regrets, irrelevant. He didn't just cut contact, he erased her from his world. No checking her social media, no wondering who she was with, no keeping the door open, just in case she decided to come back. Because here's the truth, no contact is silence. Indifference is power. Silence still has an emotional charge. It still means you care, but indifference, that's what makes people panic. That's what makes them question everything. When someone who once adored you now sees you as just another person, someone they could pass on the street without a second thought, that's when they feel the true weight of loss. And that's exactly what happened. At first she didn't notice. She assumed he was just playing the same as every other guy, waiting, suffering in silence, hoping she'd come back. But then something changed. His absence wasn't just temporary. It was real. His energy was different. He wasn't just avoiding her. He had outgrown her, and that's when the shift happened. One day she checked his social media, expecting to see the same man she left behind. But instead she saw someone unrecognizable. He wasn't sulking, he wasn't posting sad quotes, or playing games to get her attention. He was living, thriving, unbothered. He looked better, more confident, stronger, and worst of all, she was no longer a part of his story. That's when the regret started creeping in. Why isn't he broken? Why isn't he trying to get me back? Did I make a mistake suddenly? She wasn't sure anymore. Because if a man can move on without hesitation, if he completely detach, it forces people to question their own worth. She had assumed he would always be there, that she could return whenever she wanted. But now she wasn't so sure. And that's the secret. Indifference is stronger than silence. It's stronger than absence. Because people don't crave what they can ignore. They crave what they can't control. When you reach this level of detachment, you don't need to block. You don't need to announce your departure. You just become someone they can never reach again. Like this video, subscribe and comment below. I am untouchable. No, for the dark side of attraction. Why they always come back. She thought she had won when she walked away. She assumed he'd crumble, that he'd drown in regret, that he'd be there waiting for the day. She got bored and decided to revisit the past. It's what most men do, they beg. They plead, they try to prove their worth. As if love is something that can be negotiated. But he did something different. He disappeared not just from her life, but from her mind at first. She didn't notice. She was too busy enjoying her newfound freedom, chasing new experiences, maybe even entertaining other men. In her mind he was still there, tucked away in the background, silently suffering. But as time passed, something began to feel off. Where was he? Why wasn't he watching her stories? Why wasn't he waiting like every other man? And that's when the panic set in. See, human nature is predictable. People don't value what they can have. They value what they fear, losing forever. And when she saw that he wasn't just ignoring her, he had moved on completely, it triggered something deep inside her: doubt, uncertainty, curiosity. The same man who once adored her, who would have done anything for her, had now become a mystery, and nothing is more attractive than a man who is untouchable. This is the dark side of attraction. The painful, brutal truth about human psychology. People are drawn to what they cannot control. They crave what is scarce. And the moment you remove yourself, truly remove yourself from their world, you create a void that they can't ignore. That's why they always come back. Not because they miss you, not because they suddenly realize your worth, but because they hate the idea that you don't need them anymore. And so the game shifts. She starts checking his social media more often, looking for signs that he still cares. Maybe she throws out a small test, likes an old photo, sends a "hope you're doing well" text, or even tries to act as if nothing happened. It's not a genuine attempt to rekindle things. It's a power move. She wants to see if she still has an effect on him. If he reacts, she wins. If he ignores her, she spirals. This is where most men fail. They mistake her curiosity for true regret. They think this is it, she's realizing what she lost. And the moment they show interest again, the moment they react, she loses that fear of loss and walks away. All over again, the cycle repeats. But not him, not this time. Because he understands now he is the prize. He doesn't need to prove his value. He embodies it, and when she finally reaches out, expecting to find the same man she left behind, she finds someone different. Someone colder, someone who sees her not as his future, but as a lesson from his past. And that's when the regret hits her in full force. Not because she lost him, but because he no longer cares. Like this video, subscribe and comment below. I am the prize. No. 5. The Stoic transformation. Turning pain into power. The old him would have chased. He would have taken any breadcrumb of attention as a sign of hope. He would have overanalyzed her every move, every text, every slight interaction, desperately trying to decode whether she still cared. But that man, he no longer exists. Because this time he's not just moving on. He's transforming, not to get her back, not to impress her, but for himself. Pain is a powerful thing for most men. It becomes a prison, a cycle of regret, self-doubt, and endless suffering. But for the rare few, the ones who understand the power of Stoicism, pain becomes something else: fuel. a weapon, a catalyst for rebirth. The difference between the weak and the powerful is simple. The weak let pain define them. The powerful use it to evolve. And that's exactly what he did. Instead of running from the pain, he embraced it, he sat with it. He let it sharpen him. Every moment of heartbreak became a lesson. Every ounce of suffering became motivation. He stopped wasting time dwelling on the past and started channeling his energy into one thing. Becoming unbreakable, he started with his mind. Emotional control became his foundation. He studied Stoicism, training himself to master his emotions instead of being controlled by them. He learned the ancient philosophy that had shaped warriors and emperors. For centuries, the art of detachment, of focusing only on what he could control, and of accepting reality without resistance. Where before he was reactive, now he was calm, unshaken, untouched. Then came his body. A warrior's mind must be matched by a warrior's body. He took all the energy he used to waste on heartbreak and poured it into self-discipline. The gym became his battlefield. Every rep, every set, every drop of sweat was a silent promise to himself. I will never be weak again. His physique changed, his posture changed. The way he walked into a room changed, and people noticed. But the most important transformation, his presence. He no longer needed validation. He no longer needed attention. And because he needed nothing, he attracted everything. The same people who once overlooked him were now drawn to him. The same woman who thought she could replace him, now she watched from a distance, wondering what she had lost. This is the essence of true power. Not seeking revenge, not chasing validation, but becoming so undeniably valuable that the past becomes irrelevant. He didn't just move on, he leveled up, so far beyond her reach that she became a mere footnote in his journey. Because in the end, the ultimate victory isn't making them regret losing you. It's becoming someone they could never have again. Like this video, subscribe and comment below. Pain makes me stronger. No. 6. The silent domination, winning without words. The old him would have felt the need to prove something, to show her and the world that he was doing better. Without her, he would have posted cryptic quotes, flaunted his progress, and hoped she'd see it. But the man he has become, he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. His success speaks for itself. This is the art of silent domination. No words, no explanations, no announcements, just action. While others waste time trying to make their ex notice them, he focuses on one thing, elevating his life. He understands a simple but powerful truth. The most dangerous man in the room is the one who says the least but accomplishes the most. He doesn't block her. He doesn't delete old pictures out of anger. He doesn't play childish games to get a reaction. He simply removes his energy. And that's what disturbs her the most. Not his absence, but the fact that it feels like he was never even there. No closure, no lingering emotions. Just nothing at first. She brushes it off. She tells herself he's just pretending, that he's doing it to get under her skin. But as time passes, she starts to wonder, why isn't he watching my stories? Why doesn't he care? Did I misjudge him? She expects the bitterness, the resentment, the desperate attempts to get her attention. But she gets nothing. Indifference, silence, absence. And this is where the mind games begin. Because when someone who once loved you suddenly no longer acknowledges your existence, it forces you to reflect. She starts remembering things she once ignored. The way he made her feel, the way he treated her, the way he was always there until he wasn't. Her curiosity grows. She casually brings up his name in conversations. She scrolls through his social media, looking for signs that he still cares. But what she finds is worse than she expected. He's not just surviving, he's thriving. He looks better, he seems happier. And worst of all, he's not looking back. This is the moment when regret creeps in. The realization that, while she was busy entertaining distractions, he was evolving into the man she always wanted, but now can never have. This is why winning without words is the most powerful victory. Because it doesn't come from trying to convince her of anything. It comes from becoming undeniable. By now he understands the secret. Energy speaks louder than words. He doesn't need to post about how much he's changed. People can feel it, his presence, his demeanor, his success. It all speaks for him. And when the moment comes when she finally reaches out, hoping to get a glimpse of the man she once knew, she finds that he's long gone. Because the ultimate power move isn't proving them wrong, it's making them realize they were never even a factor in your success. Like this video, subscribe and comment below. I let my actions speak. No. 7. The social shift, creating an aura of mystery. At first, he thought complete disappearance was the answer. That if he just vanished, she'd be left wondering, missing him, regretting everything. But then he realized something even more powerful. Mystery because complete absence. That's easy to explain. She'd assume he was bitter, still hurt, still avoiding her out of weakness. But a man who is present but unreadable, that's the one who haunts the mind. He didn't balk her. He didn't go on an attention-seeking spree. He simply became unpredictable. Where before he was an open book, now he was a puzzle she couldn't solve. No sad quotes, no indirect messages, no obvious attempts to get noticed. Just selective, intentional presence. A glimpse here, a moment there. Just enough to make her curious, but never enough to fully understand what he was thinking. This is the art of the social shift. You don't disappear, you evolve in plain sight. You move in silence, but you leave clues. A photo that hints at a life she was never a part of. A brief story that shows you're doing better, but with zero context, no captions. Crying for attention, no unnecessary explanations. Just confidence, presence, power, and that's what starts to eat at her. Because when a man changes, women instinctively want to know why. Is he seeing someone else? Has he outgrown me? Was he always this strong and I just never noticed? She checks his social media more often, waiting for a sign, anything to confirm what she's feeling. But she gets nothing, no emotional outbursts, no bitterness, just a man who is clearly thriving. The more she tries to figure him out, the more frustrated she becomes. She thought she had him figured out, that she knew exactly how he felt, that he would always be the one who cared more. But now he feels like a stranger. A mystery, and mystery is attraction. Because here's the truth. People don't obsess over what they understand. They obsess over what confuses them. They are drawn to what they cannot fully grasp. And the moment you become unpredictable, unreadable, untouchable, that's when they can't stop thinking about you. And yet the true power move, you don't do any of this for her. You don't become a mystery to lure her back. You do it because you've outgrown the need to explain yourself. Because your life is yours. And she no longer has access to it. Not by force, but by choice. And that's what makes her regret everything. Like this video, subscribe and comment below. I am a mystery. No. 8. The ultimate test. When she reaches out, it always happens. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But eventually she reaches out. It might be a simple "Hey, how have you been?" or a casual reaction to a post. Maybe she brings up an old memory, trying to see if it still holds weight. Sometimes, it's as small as liking a picture or viewing a story, just to remind you she still exists. But make no mistake, this isn't an accident. It's a test. Most men fail here. The moment she sends that message, their emotions take over, their heart races. Their mind floods with memories, and suddenly they forget everything. They tell themselves, this is my chance. She finally realized what she lost, and before they know it, they're right back where they started. They respond too quickly, too eagerly. They try to play it cool, but the excitement bleeds through. And just like that, she knows she still has power over them. But this man, he's different. He has spent too much time building himself up to crumble at the first sign of attention. He understands what's really happening. She's not coming back because she truly misses him. She's coming back to check if he's still an option. If he reacts, if he gives her the validation she's looking for, she wins, and just like before, the cycle repeats. That's why he doesn't take the bait. He doesn't ignore her out of pettiness. He ignores her because she is no longer relevant. And that, more than anything, is what destroys her. Because she was expecting a reaction. A response, some kind of sign that he's still affected. But instead, nothing. And if he does respond, it's brief. Polite but distant, uninterested. She asks how he's been. Good. No details, no opening for further conversation. No sign that he's been sitting around, waiting for this moment. The energy is different. She can feel it where before there was longing. Now there is only indifference. And that's what makes her panic. Because now, for the first time, she's the one wondering, does he still think about me? Does he have someone else? Was I wrong to leave? She thought she had the upper hand. But now she's the one feeling rejected. And the harder she tries to figure him out, the more powerless she feels. This is the ultimate test. And the ones who pass it, they never go back. Because once you've mastered yourself, once you've outgrown the need for validation, you realize something powerful. The past has nothing left for you. Like this video, subscribe and comment below. I am in control. No. 9. The final shift. Becoming truly unbreakable. There comes a moment in every man's journey when he realizes he's free. Not because she finally reached out, not because he won the breakup, but because for the first time, she doesn't matter anymore. Her name doesn't trigger emotions. Her memory doesn't haunt him. He no longer feels the need to prove anything to her. Or to himself. He is unbreakable. This is the final shift. The moment when the pain stops being a burden and becomes nothing more than a distant lesson. The moment when he wakes up and realizes he no longer cares whether she regrets losing him, whether she thinks about him, whether she sees his success, because he's too busy living. And that's what truly destroys her. Not the silence, not the indifference, but the realization that she no longer has any effect on him. She thought she could return one day, that the door would always be open, that he would always hold a piece of her in his heart. But when she finally looks back, she finds nothing, no trace of the man she once knew. Only a man who has evolved so far beyond her reach that she becomes irrelevant. This is where most people fail. They think moving on is about replacing someone, about proving a point, about revenge. But true power isn't found in seeking validation. It's found in no longer needing it. He doesn't move on to make her jealous. He doesn't grow to make her regret. He becomes unbreakable, because it's who he was meant to be all along. And once he reaches this stage, something incredible happens. The past loses all meaning. He doesn't look back, because there's nothing worth looking at. He doesn't question whether she misses him, because it doesn't matter. He has stepped into a new reality, one where he is the master of his own fate. This is what real strength looks like. Not chasing, not proving. Just existing in a way that commands respect, without saying a word. He's no longer a victim of heartbreak. He is a force of nature. A man who has risen from the ashes stronger than ever. And the best part, the story isn't about her anymore. It never was like this video. Subscribe and comment below. I never look back. No. 10. The new reality, a life on his terms. This is at the final stage. The moment when he steps fully into the life he was always meant to live. A life on his terms, no longer shaped by heartbreak. No longer haunted by the past. No longer waiting for someone to realize his worth, because he knows it himself. He no longer wonders what could have been. He no longer cares. He doesn't care who she's with. He doesn't care if she regrets it. He doesn't care if she stalks his profile, hoping to get a glimpse of the man she once knew. Because that man, he no longer exists. What exists now is something greater. A man who has built himself from the ground up. A man who has mastered his emotions, sharpened his mind and hardened his spirit. A man who walks into every room with quiet confidence, knowing that he no longer needs anything from anyone. The validation he once craved, irrelevant. The attention he once sought, meaningless. He doesn't need to be seen. His presence is felt. And this is the part she never saw coming. She thought he would always hold space for her, always keep the door open just a little. She thought she could return one day and find him exactly where she left him. But when she finally looks back, he's gone, not in the physical sense, not in the petty "I'll block you to prove a point" way. He's gone because he outgrew her. That's the true power move. Not revenge, not bitterness. Just indifference. He doesn't look back because the past has nothing left to offer him. He doesn't need closure because his success is his closure. The life he's created, the man he's become. That is the final chapter. Not a conversation, not an explanation. Just becoming so untouchable that the past becomes meaningless. And that's what really breaks her. Not that he moved on, not that he's doing better, but that she no longer exists in his world. She is nothing more than a lesson he once learned. And while she's stuck in the past, questioning everything he is thriving in a reality she will never be part of again. Because in the end, the strongest man is not the one who gets her back. It's the one who becomes so powerful that he never even considers it. Like this video, subscribe and comment below. I am unstoppable. This is where the journey ends. But for you, it's just the beginning. The moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop waiting, the moment you fully step into your power. Because this was never about her. It was never about making her regret. It was about becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to look back. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You don't need to seek validation. You are the prize, and when you truly embody that, the past loses all meaning. The regrets, the heartbreak, the overthinking, it all fades into nothing. And in its place, a man who is untouchable. A man who controls his own destiny. If you made it this far, you're already ahead of most. Because most men never reach this stage. They stay stuck in the cycle, waiting, hoping, suffering. But you've already taken the first step toward becoming something greater. Now it's time to finish what you started. Build yourself. Master your emotions. Keep moving forward. Because once you become uncheckable, once you become truly free, life stops being about proving anything to anyone and starts being about living on your own terms. So if you're ready to keep evolving, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications and comment below. One final time. I control my destiny because from this point forward, no one else does.